You had your laughs. Now cry without my money.
My name's Eugene Wilson. I'm 50 years old. As of yesterday, I repair air conditioning units for a living. And I've spent the last 25 years of my marriage learning that being a good provider apparently makes you invisible. But yesterday's birthday party taught me something new about invisibility. Sometimes it's better than being the main attraction at your own public execution. Eugene, you remember my sister Carmen, right? Bernice said, like Carmen hadn't been camping in our house for 3 months. And this is her boyfriend, Derek. Derek looked up from my bowl of Cheerios and nodded. He had the kind of mustache that screamed, "I make poor life decisions," and was wearing a tank top that showed off prison tattoos. Real winner, this one. "Nice to meet you," I said, though we'd been sharing a bathroom for 12 weeks. "Derek's between jobs right now," Carmen chimed in. She was sitting at my kitchen table in her pajamas at 6 a.m., smoking a cigarette like she paid the mortgage. "But he's got some real promising leads." "I bet he does," I muttered, pouring coffee into my travel mug. I had 3 service calls scheduled before noon, which meant I'd be crawling through attics while Derek got comfortable on my couch. "What was that?" Bernice asked, giving me that look. The one that said I was about to be lectured about family values and Christian charity. "Nothing, honey. Just thinking about work." "Well, think about this too," she said, crossing her arms. "Carmen needs our help right now. Her ex isn't paying child support, and Derek's been looking everywhere for work. The least we can do is provide a stable environment for the kids." The kids. 3 little tornadoes named Ashley, Brandon, and Cody who'd turned my quiet suburban home into a daycare center. Don't get me wrong, I like kids. But these 3 had been raised by wolves, apparently, and Carmen's idea of discipline was turning up the TV volume. "How long are we talking about here?" I asked. "As long as it takes," Carmen said, blowing smoke toward my ceiling fan. "Derek's got an interview next week with a construction company. Could be big money." I looked at Derek, who was now reading my newspaper while eating my breakfast. "Construction, huh? What kind of experience do you have?" "Oh, you know," he said without looking up. "Little bit of everything. Roofing, electrical, plumbing. I'm what you call a jack of all trades." "Master of none," I said under my breath. "What?" "Nothing. Well, I've got to get to work. Some of us have jobs to go to." Bernice followed me to the garage. "Eugene, I need you to be supportive here. Carmen's going through a really tough time." "We're all going through a tough time, Bernice. Our grocery bill has doubled, our water bill has tripled, and I found Derek using my tools yesterday to fix his motorcycle. He asked permission. He asked if I had a socket wrench. He didn't ask if he could rebuild an engine in our driveway." "You're being selfish." There it was. The magic word that ended every argument in our house. Selfish. As if wanting to eat breakfast in my own kitchen without an audience was somehow morally wrong. "I'll see you tonight," I said, climbing into my work truck. The day didn't get better. My first call was a broken compressor unit at a strip mall, which meant 2 hours in a 100-degree attic replacing parts. My second call was a routine maintenance check that turned into a full system replacement when I found the homeowner had been fixing things himself with duct tape and prayer. By the time I got to my third call, I was already running late and covered in sweat. But the real fun started when I got home. I pulled into my driveway at 6:30 to find Derek's motorcycle parts spread across my lawn like mechanical confetti. Carmen was sitting on my front porch smoking and talking on her phone while her kids ran around the yard screaming, and Bernice was in the kitchen with her gym friends planning what she called my surprise birthday party. "Eugene!" she called out as I walked through the door. "Perfect timing! We were just talking about tomorrow night." Tomorrow night. My actual birthday. I'd been hoping for a quiet dinner and maybe a beer while watching the game. Apparently, Bernice had other plans. "Hey there, birthday boy!" This was Shay, one of Bernice's CrossFit buddies. She was loud, blonde, and had the kind of laugh that could shatter windows. "We're going to throw you the party of a lifetime!" "That's really not necessary," I said. "I was thinking maybe we could just—" "Nonsense!" interrupted Mindy, Bernice's other gym friend. 50 is a big deal! We've already booked the back room at Murphy's Brewery. It's going to be epic. Murphy's Brewery, the local hangout where everyone in town went to drink overpriced beer and pretend they were sophisticated. Great. "Who's coming to this party?" I asked. "Oh, everyone," Bernice said. "Your work friends, the neighbors, my gym crew, Carmen and Derek, of course. Even the boys are driving in from Dallas." The boys, my 3 sons, Salvador, Franklin, and Damien. All adults now, all disappointments in their own special ways. Salvador was 29 and sold real estate, which meant he spent most of his time taking selfies in other people's houses. Franklin was 26 and had never met a poker game he couldn't lose or a get-rich-quick scheme he couldn't fall for. Damien was 23 and still in college, majoring in something called communications, which seemed to involve a lot of parties and very little actual communication. The boys are coming? That's great. Don't sound so excited, Bernice said. They're your sons. I know they're my sons. I've been paying for them to be my sons for the last 23 years. There you go, being negative again. This is supposed to be a celebration. I looked around my kitchen. Derek had apparently moved on from my cereal to my leftover pizza. Carmen's kids were now inside, and one of them was jumping on my couch while the other two fought over the TV remote. Carmen herself was still on the phone, but now she was in my living room, using my house phone because her cell service had been cut off. You know what? I said. A party sounds great, really great. The next evening, I found myself in the back room of Murphy's Brewery, wearing a shirt Bernice had picked out for me, surrounded by people who were having a much better time at my birthday party than I was. The room was decorated with balloons that said "Over the Hill" and streamers that looked like they'd been stolen from a retirement home. My work buddies had shown up, which was nice. Harold from the shop brought his wife, and a few of the other guys came by after their shifts. But they were outnumbered by Bernice's gym crew, who had apparently decided this was their party, and I was just the excuse for it. Eugene! Salvador appeared at my elbow, drink in hand. He was wearing one of those shirts that cost more than I made in a day, and had his hair styled like he was about to pose for a magazine cover. Dad! How's it feel to be 50? Like being 49, but with more people reminding me about it. Ha, classic dad humor. Hey, I wanted to talk to you about something. I've got this amazing investment opportunity. No. You didn't even hear what it is. I don't need to. The answer is no. Franklin materialized on my other side. What's the answer to what? Salvador's trying to pitch me another one of his investment opportunities. Oh, those never work out, Franklin said. Hey, Dad, speaking of money, I'm in a little bit of a jam. There was this poker game last weekend, and I thought I had a sure thing, but let me guess. You need money. Just a loan. I'm good for it, you know that. Before I could answer, Damien joined our little family huddle. What's everyone talking about? Money, I said. Your brothers are talking about money. They always talk about money. Oh, well, since we're talking about it, I need to discuss next semester's tuition. There's been a little mix-up with my financial aid, and... Let me stop you right there, I said. All three of you. This is supposed to be a party. My party. Can we maybe talk about something other than how much money you need from me? Geez, Dad, we're just trying to have a conversation, Salvador said. Yeah, don't be so sensitive, Franklin added. Sensitive. Another magic word in my family's vocabulary, right up there with selfish. You know what? I need another beer. I made my way to the bar, where Derek was holding court with some of the neighbors. He was telling a story that involved a lot of hand gestures and seemed to be getting more elaborate with each telling. So there I was, he was saying, 3 stories up on this construction site, right? And the whole scaffold starts to shake. Turns out the guy who set it up didn't know what he was doing. But I stayed calm, finished the job, and climbed down like it was nothing. Wow, said Mrs. Peterson from next door. That sounds terrifying. Just another day at the office for me, Derek said, taking a long pull from his beer. I've been in construction for 15 years. Seen it all, done it all. 15 years. Yesterday, he'd told me he was new to construction. The day before that, he claimed he was thinking about getting into construction. But sure, 15 years sounded good. Eugene. Bernice appeared beside me, slightly drunk and very loud. There you are! We're about to start the toasts! Toasts. Of course there were going to be toasts, because nothing says happy birthday, like forcing people to stand up and say nice things about you in front of a crowd. Do we have to do toasts? Of course we do! It's tradition! She dragged me back to the main area, where someone had set up a microphone. This was getting worse by the minute. Ladies and gentlemen, Bernice tapped on her beer bottle with a spoon. Can I have everyone's attention, please? We're going to do some birthday toasts for our guest of honor. The crowd turned toward us, and I felt like I was about to be executed, which, as it turned out, wasn't that far from the truth. I'll go first, announced Shay, grabbing the microphone. Eugene, you've been married to my dear friend Bernice for 25 years, which means you deserve some kind of medal for patience. Everyone laughed. Haha, Marriage is hard, wives are difficult, men suffer in silence. Classic comedy gold. But seriously, Shay continued, Bernice tells us the funniest stories about married life. Like how you still can't find the dishwasher soap even though it's been in the same cabinet for 10 years. More laughter. I was starting to see where this was going. And don't get me started on your romantic skills. Shay was really warming up now. Bernice says you think foreplay is asking, are you awake? The laughter got louder. I looked at Bernice, who was giggling along with everyone else. She'd been sharing our private life with her gym friends. Great. But the best story, Shay continued, is about your performance in the bedroom. Bernice says, okay, I interrupted, reaching for the microphone. I think that's enough. Oh, no, this is the good part. Shay pulled the microphone away from me. She says you're like a microwave dinner. You're done in 3 minutes and leave her unsatisfied. The room erupted in laughter. People were actually applauding. I looked at Bernice again, and she was laughing so hard she was crying. My own wife had just let her friend humiliate me in front of everyone I knew. Who wants to go next? Shay asked, holding out the microphone. I will. Franklin grabbed it before I could object. My dad, Eugene Wilson, the man who taught me everything I know about being cheap. Oh, this was getting better. Seriously, this guy will drive across town to save 50 cents on a gallon of milk. He still has clothes from the 80s, and not because they're vintage, because he refuses to buy new ones. Franklin. And he's so out of touch with technology, he still thinks Netflix is a fishing technique. More laughter. My own son was roasting me at my own birthday party. But you know what the best part about my dad is? Franklin continued. He's always been there to bail us out when we screw up. Which, let's be honest, is pretty much constantly. That's right. Salvador took the microphone from his brother. Dad's like a human ATM, except he gives you lectures instead of receipts. Salvador, that's enough. Oh, come on, Dad. We're just having fun. Like the time you gave me that speech about fiscal responsibility while writing me a check for $5,000. The crowd was eating this up. My humiliation was the entertainment for the evening. And remember when Franklin lost all that money in Vegas? Salvador continued. Dad drove all night to pick him up, paid his hotel bill, and then lectured him about gambling the entire drive home. 8 hours of pure wisdom, Franklin added, taking the microphone back. But he still paid for my gas to get there in the first place. That's because he's a sucker. This was Damien, who apparently decided to join the roast. Dad pays for everything. My tuition, my car, my apartment, my food. I'm 23 years old and I've never paid for anything in my life. Damien, it's true. And the best part is, he never says no. We just have to listen to him complain about it. The three of them were passing the microphone around like they were doing a comedy routine. My sons were tag-teaming my public humiliation. You know what we should do, Salvador said into the microphone. We should change our last names. Who wants to be a Wilson when you could be something cooler? Yeah, Franklin agreed. Wilson is such a boring name. We could be the Smith brothers or the Johnsons. Anything but Wilson, Damien chimed in. The crowd was laughing and cheering. Someone started chanting, change the name, change the name. You know what? Salvador said. Let's make it official. Dad, you got a pen? Before I could object, someone handed him a pen and a napkin. I, Salvador Wilson, hereby renounce my family name and choose to be known as Salvador Rodriguez. He signed the napkin with a flourish and handed the pen to Franklin. Franklin Rodriguez, Franklin announced, signing his own napkin. Damien Rodriguez. Damien followed suit. The crowd was going wild. My sons had just publicly disowned our family name, and everyone thought it was hilarious. There you go, Dad, Salvador said, handing me the napkins. Your sons are now officially not your sons. How's that for a birthday present? I stood there holding 3 napkins with my sons' signatures on them, renouncing the name I'd given them. The room was still laughing and applauding. Bernice was wiping tears from her eyes. Whether from laughter or embarrassment, I couldn't tell. Speech, speech, someone started chanting. Yeah, Dad, Franklin said. Give us a speech. I looked around the room at all the faces staring at me. My wife, who had just let her friends humiliate me publicly. My sons, who had just disowned our family name for laughs. My neighbors, who were enjoying the show. Carmen and Derek, who were living in my house rent-free while mocking me along with everyone else. You want a speech? I said, taking the microphone. Yeah, the crowd cheered. Okay, here's my speech. I looked directly at Bernice. Thank you all for coming to celebrate my 50th birthday. It's been educational. I've learned a lot about my family tonight. About my wife, who apparently thinks our private life is public entertainment. About my sons, who think I'm nothing more than a bank account with legs. About my house guests, who think my home is their personal hotel. The laughter was starting to die down. People were beginning to sense that the mood had shifted. I've learned that 25 years of marriage, 30 years of fatherhood, and a lifetime of working my A off to provide for my family has earned me the right to be publicly humiliated at my own birthday party. The room was getting quiet now. So thank you, all of you, for showing me exactly where I stand, for making it crystal clear what you really think of me, for giving me the best 50th birthday gift I could have asked for. The truth. I set the microphone down on the nearest table and walked out of the room. Behind me, I could hear Bernice calling my name, but I didn't stop. I walked through the main bar, out the front door, and into the parking lot. I sat in my truck for a few minutes, trying to process what had just happened. My own family had just destroyed me in front of everyone I knew, and they'd done it for entertainment. My phone started buzzing. Text messages from Bernice. Eugene, come back inside. You're overreacting. Everyone was just having fun. Don't be so sensitive. There it was again. Sensitive. As if having feelings about being publicly humiliated was somehow unreasonable. I started the truck and drove home. When I got there, I sat in my driveway for a long time, looking at my house. My house, where Carmen and Derek were living rent-free. My house, where my wife was probably going to come home and lecture me about ruining my own birthday party. My house, which apparently wasn't really mine anymore. That's when I made a decision. If my family wanted to treat me like I was invisible, then invisible is what I'd become. But first, I was going to remind them exactly what they'd be missing. I went inside and started making a list. Every bill I paid, every favor I'd done, every dollar I'd spent on my ungrateful family over the past 25 years. It was going to be a long list. By the time Bernice got home at midnight, I was sitting at the kitchen table with a calculator and 3 file folders. Eugene? What are you doing? Math, I said without looking up. What kind of math? The expensive kind. She sat down across from me. Look, about tonight. Tonight was perfect, I said. Tonight was exactly what I needed. You're angry. No, Bernice, I'm not angry. I'm educated. I closed the folders and looked at her. Did you know that in 25 years of marriage, I've never once shared details about our private life with my friends? Eugene, did you know that your sister and her boyfriend have cost us $4,000 in 3 months? Utilities, food, gas, phone bills, $4,000. Their family, did you know that I've given our sons a combined total of $230,000 over the past 10 years? College, cars, apartments, bail money, gambling debts, business investments that never happened. $230,000. They needed help. Did you know that I've never once asked for anything in return? Not gratitude, not respect, not even basic courtesy. Nothing. Bernice was quiet now. But tonight I learned something new. I learned that all of that generosity, all of that sacrifice, all of those years of putting everyone else first has earned me the right to be publicly humiliated by the people I love most. It was just a party, Eugene. People were having fun. At my expense, literally and figuratively. I stood up and headed for the stairs. Where are you going? To bed. I've got a lot of work to do tomorrow. What kind of work? I stopped at the bottom of the stairs and looked back at her. The kind that's going to teach everyone in this family the difference between being invisible and being gone. The next morning, I started my education campaign. First stop, the bank. I moved all of our joint accounts into my name only. 25 years of marriage in Texas meant Bernice had rights to half of everything, but she'd have to go through a lawyer to get it. And lawyers take time. Second stop, Salvador's real estate office. I walked in like I was a potential client and asked to speak with him privately. Dad, what are you doing here? I'm here to discuss your career change. What career change? I pulled out one of my folders and opened it on his desk. According to my records, I've invested $47,000 in your real estate career. Office rent, car payments, marketing materials, licensing fees, wardrobe, $47,000. Okay, and I'm calling in the loan, all of it, with interest. Salvador laughed. Dad, come on, you know I don't have that kind of money. Then I guess you better start selling some houses. You've got 30 days. 30 days? Dad, that's impossible. Then you better get creative. Maybe change your name back to Wilson. It's got a nice, trustworthy sound to it. I left him sitting there with his mouth open and drove to Franklin's apartment. He was still asleep at noon, which wasn't surprising. I used my key, the key I'd paid for, to the apartment I'd paid the deposit on, and let myself in. Franklin, wake up! He stumbled out of his bedroom in his underwear, looking like he'd been hit by a truck. Dad, what time is it? Time to get a job. What? I opened my second folder on his kitchen counter. $68,000, Franklin. That's how much I've spent on your gambling problem, your car payments, your rent, and your various business opportunities over the past 5 years. Dad, I can explain. No need to explain. I'm just here to collect. Collect what? My money, all of it, plus interest. Franklin looked at the numbers I'd written down. Dad, this is crazy. I don't have this kind of money. Then get it. How? Get a job. A real job. The kind where you show up every day and they pay you money in exchange for work. Revolutionary concept. But Dad, you've got 30 days, Franklin. Same as your brother. What happens in 30 days? You find out what it's like when the bank account with legs walks away. I left him standing in his kitchen and drove to Damien's college. He was easier to find. He was in the student union playing pool with his friends when he should have been in class. Dad, what are you doing here? Field trip, I said. Come with me. I led him outside to the parking lot, away from his friends. Damien, do you know how much college costs? A lot. $32,000 a year, times 4 years. Plus your car, your apartment, your food, your phone, your spring break trips, your fraternity fees. We're looking at about $150,000 total. Okay, I'm cutting you off? What do you mean? I mean no more money. No more tuition payments, no more car payments, no more rent money. Nothing. Dad, you can't do that. I'm in the middle of my senior year. Then you better figure out how to pay for it yourself. But how? Student loans, part-time jobs, scholarship. I don't really care how you do it, but you're going to do it without my money. This is insane. What's gotten into you? Clarity, son, pure clarity. I left him standing in the parking lot and drove home. When I got there, Derek was in my garage, using my tools to work on his motorcycle again. Derek. He looked up from whatever he was doing to my workbench. Oh, hey, Eugene. Hope you don't mind. I borrowed a few tools. Actually, I do mind. In fact, I mind a lot of things. What do you mean? I mean, you and Carmen need to find somewhere else to live. Derek laughed. Come on, man. We're family now. No, Derek. You're a guy who's been living in my house rent-free for 3 months while eating my food, using my utilities, and treating my home like your personal garage. Bernice said we could stay as long as we needed. Bernice doesn't pay the mortgage. I do. And I'm saying you need to leave. When? Now would be good. This weekend at the latest. Derek stood up. And for a moment I thought he might try to intimidate me. He was younger than me, bigger than me, and had those prison tattoos that suggested he wasn't afraid of confrontation. But I'd been crawling through attics and lifting air conditioning units for 30 years. I wasn't as big as Derek, but I was tougher than I looked. You can't just kick us out, he said. Watch me. Carmen's not going to like this. Carmen cannot like it somewhere else. What about the kids? What about them? They're not my kids, Derek. They're your responsibility. Derek put down my wrench and stepped closer to me. You know what your problem is, Eugene? You're selfish. There it was again. The magic word. You know what, Derek? You're right. I am selfish. I'm selfish enough to want to eat breakfast in my own kitchen. I'm selfish enough to want to use my own tools. I'm selfish enough to want to live in my own house without strangers treating it like a hotel. We're not strangers. We're family. No, Derek, family contributes. Family helps out. Family shows respect. You're a freeloader with a motorcycle and an attitude problem. Derek's face was getting red. You can't talk to me like that. I can talk to you however I want. This is my house, those are my tools, and that's my garage you're standing in. You think you're better than me? I think I work for a living. I think I pay my own bills. I think I don't move into other people's houses and eat their food while contributing nothing. Derek took another step closer. Maybe you need someone to teach you some manners. Maybe you need someone to teach you how to find the front door. For a moment, we just stared at each other. Then Derek smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. This isn't over, he said. Yes, it is. You've got until Sunday to get your stuff and get out. And if we don't, then you'll find your stuff on the lawn and the lock's changed. Derek grabbed his jacket and walked toward the door. We'll see about that. After he left, I went inside to find Carmen in the kitchen, making herself lunch with my groceries. Carmen, we need to talk. If this is about Derek using your tools, he already told me. He said he'd ask next time. This isn't about the tools. This is about you finding somewhere else to live. Carmen stopped making her sandwich and looked at me. Excuse me? You heard me. You and Derek and the kids need to find your own place. Eugene, what's gotten into you? Bernice said we could stay here as long as we needed. Bernice doesn't make that decision alone. And I've decided you've stayed long enough. This is ridiculous. We're family. You're Bernice's family. You're not my family. That's a horrible thing to say. You know what's horrible? Having strangers live in your house for 3 months without paying rent, utilities, or groceries. Having your bathroom occupied every morning by people who don't live here. Having your tools borrowed without permission and your food eaten without replacement. We've been going through a hard time. We've all been going through a hard time, Carmen. The difference is, some of us work to solve our problems instead of moving in with relatives. Carmen's face was getting red, just like Derek's had. You can't just kick us out. We have nowhere to go. That's not my problem. What about the children? What about them? They're your children, Carmen, your responsibility. Bernice is going to hear about this. I'm sure she will. In fact, I'm counting on it. Carmen stormed out of the kitchen, and I could hear her on the phone within minutes calling Bernice. I didn't care. Let them talk. Let them plan. Let them figure out how to solve their problems without using me as a solution. I spent the rest of the afternoon researching divorce lawyers and making more lists. By the time Bernice got home from the gym, I had a complete financial breakdown of our marriage, including every dollar I'd contributed versus every dollar she'd contributed. Eugene, what is this nonsense about kicking Carmen out? It's not nonsense, it's a decision. You can't make that decision without talking to me. I just did. She's my sister. She's your sister, not your tenant. If you want to support her, you can get a job and pay her rent somewhere else. I have a job. You teach 3 CrossFit classes a week, Bernice. That's not a job. That's a hobby that pays gas money. I contribute to this household? How? Show me your contribution. I opened one of my folders and spread the papers across the kitchen table. 25 years of marriage, Bernice. Here's every mortgage payment, every utility bill, every car payment, every insurance premium, every grocery bill. Show me where your name appears as the payer. Bernice looked at the papers. I manage the household. You manage spending my money. There's a difference. I raised your children, our children, and I paid for them to be raised. Food, clothes, medical bills, school expenses, college tuition. Show me one check you wrote for any of it. That's not fair. I was taking care of the family. And I was paying for the family, but apparently that doesn't earn me any respect in this house. Eugene, what is this really about? Are you still upset about the party? The party was educational. It taught me that my wife thinks our private life is entertainment for her friends. It taught me that my sons think I'm nothing more than a source of money. It taught me that everyone in this family takes me for granted. That's not true, isn't it? When's the last time anyone in this family thanked me for anything? When's the last time anyone asked how my day was? When's the last time anyone showed any interest in my life beyond how much money I could provide? Bernice was quiet. I'll tell you when. Never. Because I've been invisible in my own family for so long that everyone forgot I was a person instead of just a paycheck. Eugene, you're scaring me. Good. Maybe a little fear will teach you what gratitude couldn't. My phone rang. It was Salvador. Dad, I've been thinking about our conversation today, and I think we need to talk. We already talked. Dad, be reasonable. You can't expect me to pay back $47,000 in 30 days. Then don't pay it back. What? Don't pay it back. See what happens. What do you mean, see what happens? I mean, see what it's like when your personal ATM shuts down permanently. Dad, you're being crazy. I'm being educated. There's a difference. I hung up on him. 5 minutes later, Franklin called. Dad, Salvador told me about your visit today. What's going on? What's going on is that the free ride is over. Dad, you can't be serious about this money thing. I'm completely serious. But I don't have $68,000. Then you better get it, Bob. How? That's your problem to solve, Franklin. For the first time in your adult life, you get to solve your own problem. This is insane. This is reality. Welcome to it. I hung up on him too. 10 minutes later, Damien called. Dad, my brothers told me what's happening. Please tell me this is some kind of joke. No joke, son. Dad, I can't pay for college by myself. I don't have any money. Then get some how, job, loan, scholarship, work-study program. There are lots of ways to pay for college, Damien. Millions of people do it every year without help from their parents. But Dad, I'm your son. Yes, you are. You're my son who publicly renounced our family name for laughs. You're my son who thinks I'm nothing more than a source of money. You're my son who's never once thanked me for anything I've done for you. That's not true. When's the last time you called me just to talk, Damien? When's the last time you asked about my life, my work, my interests? When's the last time you treated me like a person instead of a bank account? Damien was quiet. That's what I thought. You've got 30 days to figure out how to be an adult. I suggest you start now. I hung up on him and turned off my phone. Bernice was staring at me like I'd lost my mind. Eugene, what has gotten into you? Clarity, Bernice. Pure, beautiful clarity. You can't cut off your own children. Watch me. And you can't kick out my sister. I already did. I won't let you do this. How are you going to stop me? You don't pay for anything in this house. You don't contribute anything to this family except drama and expense. What exactly are you going to do? Bernice stood up from the table. I'm calling my lawyer. Good idea. While you're at it, ask him about divorce law in Texas. Ask him about community property and spousal support. Ask him how much alimony a woman gets when she's been unemployed for 20 years and her only skill is teaching exercise classes. You wouldn't dare. Try me. Bernice stormed out of the kitchen, and I could hear her on the phone in the living room. I didn't care who she was calling. I had work to do. I spent the evening researching Texas divorce law and making more lists. By the time I went to bed, I had a complete strategy for legally separating myself from my ungrateful family while protecting my assets and my future. The next morning, I woke up to find Derek's motorcycle parts still scattered across my lawn. Apparently, he thought I was bluffing about the Sunday deadline. Time to show him how serious I was. I called a locksmith and had all the locks changed on my house. Then I called a lawyer and filed for divorce. Then I went to work, because unlike everyone else in my family, I had a job to go to. When I got home that evening, Derek's motorcycle was in my driveway, Carmen's car was in my driveway, and there was a lot of shouting coming from inside my house. I used my new key to let myself in. Eugene! Carmen screamed as soon as she saw me. Your locks don't work! They work fine, you just don't have keys anymore. You can't lock us out of our home. This isn't your home, Carmen. This is my home. You're a guest who's overstayed her welcome. Derek appeared in the hallway looking angrier than I'd ever seen him. You think you're real funny, don't you? I think I'm real tired of supporting people who don't appreciate it. We appreciate it. Show me. What? Show me your appreciation. Show me one thing you've done to contribute to this household. Show me one bill you've paid, one chore you've done, one gesture of gratitude you've made. Derek couldn't answer because there wasn't an answer. That's what I thought. You've got until Sunday to get out. The new locks go into effect Monday morning. And if we don't leave, then I call the police and have you removed for trespassing. You can't do that. Bernice invited us. Bernice doesn't own this house. I do, and I'm uninviting you. Carmen started crying. Eugene, please, we have nowhere to go. Carmen, you've had 3 months to find somewhere to go. You've had 3 months to get jobs, save money, and make plans. Instead, you've been living rent-free in my house while I paid for everything. Your lack of planning doesn't constitute an emergency on my part. What about the children? What about them? They're your children. Take care of them. You're heartless. I'm practical. There's a difference. Bernice came into the room, and I could tell she'd been crying. Eugene, I talked to my lawyer today. Good. What did he say? He said you're serious about the divorce. Very serious. He also said that community property laws mean I'm entitled to half of everything. That's right, half of everything, including half of all the debt your family has created, half of the mortgage, half of the credit card bills, half of the car payments, half of everything, Bernice. Are you sure you want half of everything? She looked confused. What do you mean? I pulled out another folder. I mean that while you're entitled to half of our assets, you're also responsible for half of our debts. And thanks to your sister and her boyfriend, plus our son's various financial emergencies, we're currently about $70,000 in debt. $70,000? $73,412 to be exact. Half of that is $36,706. That's your share, Bernice. Hope you've been saving up. Bernice sat down heavily in the nearest chair. Eugene, I don't have that kind of money. Then I guess you better get a job, a real job. But I don't have any skills. You have 20 years to develop some. That's about how long it's going to take you to pay off your half of the debt. Derek was looking back and forth between us like he was watching a tennis match. This is all crazy. You people are insane. Derek, I said, turning to face him, you have 48 hours to get out of my house. After that, I'm calling the police. You can't call the police on family. You're not family. You're a stranger who's been living in my house rent-free while contributing nothing. That's called trespassing. Bernice invited us. Bernice is about to be my ex-wife. Her invitations don't carry much weight anymore. Derek looked at Bernice, who was still staring at the debt calculations I'd shown her. Bernice, tell him he can't do this. I can't, she said quietly. He owns the house. But we're family. No, Derek, you're my sister's boyfriend. Eugene doesn't owe you anything. Finally. After 3 months, Bernice was starting to understand reality. This is BS! Derek stormed toward the front door. Come on, Carmen, we don't need this. Where are we going to go? Carmen asked. I don't know, but we're not staying here. Derek, wait! But Derek was already out the door, slamming it behind him. Carmen looked at me with tears in her eyes. Eugene, please, I'm begging you. Give us a little more time. I gave you 3 months, Carmen. How much more time do you need? Just a few more weeks. Derek has some job interviews lined up. Derek's had job interviews lined up for 3 months. Either he's the unluckiest job hunter in Texas, or he's not really looking. He's trying. Not hard enough. Carmen, I'm not your solution. I'm not your safety net. I'm not your backup plan. You're a grown woman with 3 children and a boyfriend. Figure it out. But no buts. Sunday, Carmen. That's it. She left crying, and I was alone with Bernice for the first time in months. Eugene, she said quietly, can we talk about this? What's to talk about? Our marriage, our family, our life together? What about it? Don't you think you're overreacting to one bad birthday party? This isn't about the birthday party, Bernice. The birthday party was just the final lesson in a very long education. What do you mean? I mean, I've spent 25 years being invisible in my own family. 25 years of working, paying, providing, and supporting while everyone around me took it for granted. That's not true. When's the last time you thanked me for anything, Bernice? She was quiet. When's the last time you asked about my day, my work, my interests, my feelings? Still quiet. When's the last time you treated me like a partner instead of a provider? Eugene, you what? You love me? You appreciate me? You respect me? Because your actions say otherwise. I do love you. You love what I provide. You love the house I pay for, the car I bought you, the credit cards I pay off every month. You love having someone to support your sister and her deadbeat boyfriend. You love having someone to bail out our sons every time they screw up. But do you love me? Of course I do. Prove it. How? Show me one thing you've done in the past year that was for me. Not for the family, not for the house, not for the kids, for me. Bernice thought about it. I could see her trying to come up with something, anything. I made your favorite dinner on your birthday. No, you didn't. You ordered pizza because you were too busy planning the party where your friends humiliated me. I bought you that shirt. You bought me a shirt so I'd look good at the party where you let everyone mock me. Eugene, that's not fair. What's not fair is 25 years of marriage where I'm treated like hired help instead of a husband. I don't treat you like hired help. Don't you? I pay all the bills while you spend the money. I work every day while you go to the gym. I support your family while you complain about mine. I solve everyone's problems while you create new ones. How is that different from hired help? Bernice started crying again. Eugene, I'm sorry. I didn't realize. That's the problem, Bernice. You didn't realize. You never realize. You never think about anyone but yourself. That's not true. Isn't it? You invited your sister to live here without asking me. You let her boyfriend use my tools and eat my food without asking me. You planned a birthday party without asking what I wanted. You let your friends humiliate me without defending me. Everything is about what you want, what you think, what you decide. I'm just the guy who pays for it all. Eugene, please, we can work this out. How? We can go to counseling. We can talk about our problems. We can fix this. Bernice, you can't counsel someone into respecting you. You can't therapy someone into appreciating you. You can't fix 25 years of being taken for granted with a few conversations. But we're married. We have a life together. We have a financial arrangement. I work, you spend. I provide, you consume. I solve problems, you create them. That's not a marriage, Bernice. That's employment. Eugene, I'll change. I'll get a job. I'll contribute more. You'll change until the crisis passes, and then you'll go right back to the way things were. Just like you always do. That's not true. Remember when you were going to start your own fitness business? I gave you $5,000 to get started. What happened to that? I decided it was too much work. Remember when you were going to get your real estate license? I paid for the classes, the books, the exam fees. What happened to that? I changed my mind. Remember when you were going to learn to manage our finances? I set up the budget software, showed you how to use it, gave you all the account information. What happened to that? I didn't have time. You didn't have time, but you had time for the gym every day. You had time for lunch with your friends. You had time to plan parties and manage everyone else's life. You just didn't have time for anything that required actual work or responsibility. Bernice was crying harder now. Eugene, please don't do this. Don't throw away our marriage over one mistake. This isn't one mistake, Bernice. This is 25 years of mistakes. This is a pattern of behavior that isn't going to change. But I love you. You love the idea of me. You love having a husband who pays for everything and asks for nothing in return. But you don't love me as a person because you don't even know me as a person. That's not true. What's my favorite movie, Bernice? She looked confused. What? My favorite movie. We've been married 25 years. What's my favorite movie? I don't know. What's my favorite food? Eugene, that's not... What's my favorite food, Bernice? I don't remember. What do I do at work? Not my job title. What do I actually do all day? You fix air conditioners. How? What's involved in fixing an air conditioner? What tools do I use? What problems do I solve? What challenges do I face? I don't know. 25 years of marriage, and you don't know anything about how I spend 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. You don't know what I like, what I enjoy, what interests me, what challenges me. You know that I pay the bills and fix things around the house, but you don't know me. Eugene, I can learn. It's too late, Bernice. I'm 50 years old, and I'm tired of being invisible in my own life. What are you saying? I'm saying the divorce papers will be ready next week. I'm saying Carmen and Derek need to be out by Sunday. I'm saying the boys are on their own financially from now on. I'm saying I'm done being taken for granted. Eugene, please. I'm going to bed. We can talk more tomorrow, but my decision is final. I went upstairs and left Bernice crying in the kitchen. I felt bad about making her cry, but I felt worse about the 25 years I'd spent being treated like I didn't matter. The next morning, I woke up to find Derek loading his motorcycle into a trailer in my driveway. Carmen was packing their car with suitcases and garbage bags full of clothes. The kids were running around the yard, not understanding what was happening. I made coffee and watched from the kitchen window. Part of me felt guilty about putting them out, but a bigger part of me felt relieved that my house was about to be mine again. Derek saw me in the window and walked over to the back door. I opened it before he could knock. Eugene, I want to apologize for yesterday. I was out of line. Yes, you were. Carmen told me about your situation with Bernice and the boys. I didn't realize how much pressure you were under. It's not about pressure, Derek. It's about respect. I get that. And I want you to know that we appreciate everything you've done for us. We really do. Thank you for saying that. Is there any chance, would you consider giving us just one more week? I've got a real job interview on Monday, and if I get it, we can start paying rent. I looked at Derek. For the first time since I'd known him, he wasn't demanding or entitled. He was asking, politely, like an adult. Derek, I appreciate the apology, but no, you've had 3 months to get a job and start contributing. One more week isn't going to change anything. But this interview is different. It's a real company with benefits and everything. Then you should have been looking for real companies 3 months ago. Derek nodded. You're right. I screwed up. We both did. Yes, you did. Can I ask you something? Sure. Are you really getting divorced? Yes. Because of us? No, Derek, because of me. Because I finally realized that I deserve better than being taken for granted. Derek nodded again. Well, for what it's worth, I think Bernice is crazy if she lets you go. You're a good man, Eugene. A better man than I am. Thank you. And I'm sorry we took advantage of your generosity. Apology accepted. Derek shook my hand and walked back to his trailer. Within an hour, they were gone. My house was quiet for the first time in 3 months. I spent Saturday cleaning up the mess they'd left behind and enjoying the silence. No kids screaming, no TV blasting, no motorcycle revving in the driveway. Just peace and quiet in my own home. Sunday morning, I was sitting on my back porch drinking coffee when Bernice came outside. "They're really gone," she said. "Yes, they are. Carmen called me last night. They're staying at a motel. That's not my problem. Eugene, she's my sister. And she's an adult with 3 kids and a boyfriend. Let them figure it out." Bernice sat down in the chair next to me. "The boys have been calling all weekend." "I'm sure they have. They want to talk to you." "I'm sure they do. Eugene, you can't really cut off your own children. Watch me. But they need your help. They need to learn how to help themselves. That's cruel. What's cruel is raising 3 grown men who think the world owes them a living. What's cruel is teaching them that they never have to face consequences for their actions because Dad will always bail them out. You're their father. Yes, I am. And the best thing I can do for them as their father is teach them how to be adults. By abandoning them, by stopping my enabling them. There's a difference." Bernice was quiet for a few minutes. Then she said, "What about us? What about us? Are you really going through with the divorce?" "Yes. Even if I change? Even if I get a job and start contributing more?" "Bernice, you've had 25 years to change. You've had 25 years to get a job and start contributing. Why would you do it now?" "Because I don't want to lose you." "You lost me a long time ago, Bernice. You just didn't notice because I kept paying the bills. That's not fair. What's not fair is spending 25 years of my life being treated like I don't matter. You do matter. Prove it. How? Tell me one thing about me that has nothing to do with money or work or what I can provide for this family." Bernice thought about it. I could see her struggling to come up with something, anything. You're a good man." "How am I a good man?" You take care of your family by working and paying bills. What else? You're always there when we need you. With money and solutions to problems. What else?" "Eugene, I don't understand what you want me to say. I want you to tell me something about me as a person, not as a provider, not as a problem solver, not as a bank account, as a person." I can't." "That's the problem, Bernice. After 25 years of marriage, you can't tell me one thing about who I am as a person, because you've never bothered to find out. But I can learn. It's too late." "Why is it too late?" "Because I'm 50 years old, and I don't want to spend the rest of my life being invisible." Bernice started crying again. "Eugene, please, give me another chance. I gave you 25 years of chances. But I didn't know. You didn't know because you didn't want to know. You didn't ask because you didn't care. You were comfortable with the arrangement we had. I work, you spend. I provide, you consume. I solve problems, you create them. I'll change. No, you won't. You'll try for a few weeks, maybe a few months, and then you'll slip back into the same patterns. Because this is who you are, Bernice. This is who you've always been. That's not true, isn't it? How many times have you promised to change over the years? How many times have you sworn you'd get a job, manage the money better, be more responsible? And how many times have you actually followed through?" Bernice couldn't answer because we both knew the truth. "The divorce papers will be ready tomorrow," I said. "You can fight it if you want, but it's going to happen either way." "Where will I go?" "That's not my problem to solve anymore." "But I don't have any money." "Then get a job. A real job." "I don't have any skills." "Then develop some. You're 47 years old, Bernice. You're not too old to learn." "But I've never lived on my own." "Then it's time to learn that too." Bernice cried for a while, and I let her. I wasn't being cruel. I was being honest. For the first time in 25 years, I was being completely honest about our relationship. "Eugene," she said finally, "is there anything I can do? Anything at all? You can accept responsibility for your part in this marriage falling apart. You can stop blaming me for your problems. You can start acting like an adult instead of a dependent. And if I do that, then maybe you'll have a better relationship with your next husband." "I don't want a next husband. I want you. You want what I provide. You want the security, the house, the financial stability. You don't want me." "How can you say that?" "Because it's true. If I lost my job tomorrow and couldn't pay the bills anymore, how long do you think you'd stick around?" "That's a horrible thing to say." It's an honest question. If I couldn't provide for you anymore, would you still want to be married to me? Bernice was quiet for a long time. Finally, she said, I don't know. At least you're being honest. Eugene, I'm scared. I know you are. Change is scary, but sometimes it's necessary. What if I can't make it on my own? Then you'll figure it out, just like millions of other people do every day. But I'm not like other people. Yes, you are. You just haven't had to be because I've been taking care of everything for you. I don't know how to be independent. Then learn. You're smart, you're capable, you're still young enough to build a new life, but you're going to have to do it without me. Bernice went inside, and I stayed on the porch for a long time, thinking about the conversation. I felt bad about hurting her, but I felt good about finally telling the truth. Monday morning, I went to work like usual, but when I came home, the house felt different, lighter somehow. Bernice was gone. She'd packed a suitcase and gone to stay with one of her gym friends. She'd left a note saying she needed time to think. That was fine with me. I needed time to think too. Over the next few weeks, my life settled into a new routine. I went to work, came home to a quiet house, made my own dinner, and watched whatever I wanted on TV. No one asked me for money. No one created problems for me to solve. No one treated me like I was invisible. The boys called constantly at first, begging me to reconsider, but when they realized I was serious, the calls stopped. Salvador got a second job to pay his bills. Franklin moved in with a friend and started working construction. Damien took out student loans and got a part-time job at the campus bookstore. They were learning to be adults, finally. Bernice called occasionally, usually to ask about money or to beg me to reconsider the divorce. But she never asked how I was doing, what I was thinking, or how I was feeling. Even in crisis, she was still focused on what she could get from me rather than who I was as a person. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday morning in November. Bernice got half of the assets, like the law required, but she also got half of the debt. When her lawyer explained what that meant, she tried to negotiate a different arrangement. But I wasn't interested in negotiating anymore. That afternoon, I was sitting in my truck outside the courthouse when my phone rang. It was Harold from work. Eugene, how'd it go? It's done. I'm officially a free man. How do you feel? Lighter. Like I've been carrying a weight for 25 years and I finally got to put it down. You going to celebrate? I think I will. Want to grab a beer? Absolutely. Murphy's Brewery? Anywhere but Murphy's Brewery. Harold laughed. Right. I forgot about the birthday party from heck. That seems like a lifetime ago. In a way, it was. That was the old Eugene, the invisible Eugene, the Eugene who let everyone walk all over him. And now? Now I'm just Eugene, the guy who fixes air conditioners, pays his own bills, and doesn't owe anyone anything. Sounds like a good life. It is. For the first time in 25 years, it really is. We met at a sports bar across town where nobody knew me and nobody cared about my family drama. We drank beer, watched football, and talked about work, sports, and everything except my ex-wife and kids. It was the best evening I'd had in years. When I got home that night, the house was dark and quiet. My house, my rules, my life. I made a sandwich, opened another beer, and sat on my couch in my living room watching my TV show. For the first time in 25 years, I wasn't invisible in my own life. I was exactly where I belonged.